Warehouse investing sounds simple. Buy a big metal building, find a tenant, and collect the rent. And here is the truth. The money isn't made in the building. It is made in the lease structure, the tenant quality, and how well you underwrite the deal before you ever close. Get those three things right and a warehouse can generate consistent, predictable cash flow for a decade or more. But get them wrong and then you got an expensive empty box. So today we are going to break down exactly how warehouse investing actually works, from how investors make money to what makes a property valuable, to a deal walkthrough you can follow step by step. I'm Helen, a commercial real estate advisor based in Texas, and I work with investors, business owners, and entrepreneurs across warehouse, land, and multifamily properties. Let's start at the beginning. Warehouse investing falls under a broader category of commercial real estate, specifically what's called industrial real estate. That industrial real estate is a wide category. It includes everything from small flex spaces and contractor base to large distribution centers, cold storage facilities, and manufacturing plants. When most individual investors or business owners get into this space, they are typically looking at properties ranging from 5,000 square feet on the small end up to 100,000 square feet or more on the larger end. So depending on their capital and their goals. Here is what makes industrial different than, for example, office or retail. Warehouses tend to have longer lease terms, typically 3 to 10 years. Tenants are often businesses that rely on the location for their operations, so they are not leaving that location very easily. They are far less cosmetic obsolescence than office space, which constantly needs renovation to stay competitive. And vacancy rates in industrial have remained historically low, especially in high growth markets like Texas. In short, warehouses tend to be stickier, simpler, and more durable income producers than most other commercial asset classes. And that's why investors love them. And me too. There are three primary ways investors make money in warehouse real estate. Let's walk through each of them. Number one, cash flow from rent. This is the most straightforward. You own the building and a tenant pays you the rent monthly. After your mortgage expenses and reserve, what is left is your cash flow. In a well-structured warehouse deal, investors typically target a cash-on-cash return somewhere between 6 to 10% annually, depending on the market and how the deal was financed. That's the income engine. And number two, appreciation in property value. There is something critically important about how commercial real estate is valued, and this is different from residential. A warehouse is not valued primarily by comparable sales the way a house is. It's valued based on the income it produces. The formula is called capitalization rate, or the very popular cap rate. In simple terms, the more net income the property generates, the more it's worth. So if you buy a warehouse, improve the lease terms, raise rent at renewal, or add a tenant, you have directly increased the value of the asset. That's called forced appreciation, and it is one of the most powerful wealth building tool in commercial real estate. So we have value equals net operating income divided by cap rate, and here you have the income drive value. Number three, equity through debt pay down. If you finance the property, your tenant's rent is essentially paying down your mortgage over time. Every month, a portion of that payment builds equity. That equity you capture when you eventually sell or refinance the property. So between cash flow, appreciation, and equity build, a well-bought warehouse can be hitting on all the three cylinders simultaneously. Not all warehouses are created equal. Here is what separates a strong investment from one that you will regret. First, location and access. This is the number one always. How close is the property to a major highway, a population center, or a distribution corridor? Texas is a prime example. Markets like Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin all sit along major freight corridors. A warehouse near I-35 or I-10 is inherently more valuable than an identical building on a rural county road. Your tenants' businesses depend on logistics, and if the location doesn't serve their supply chain, they won't stay. Clear height. This is the interior ceiling height of the warehouse measured to the lowest obstruction. Modern tenants, especially logistics and e-commerce companies, want at least 24 to 28 feet of clear height so they can stack inventory on racking systems. Older buildings with 16 to 18 foot ceiling can work for the tenants, but they are more limited and they can limit your buyer pool when it's time to sell. Loading infrastructure. How many dock doors does the building have? Is there a truck court large enough for an 18-wheeler to maneuver? Are there grade level drive-in doors for smaller cars? These functional features directly determine what kind of tenants can occupy the space and what they will pay for it. Tenant quality and lease terms. This is where it gets really important. A warehouse occupied by a national or a regional company on a 7-year triple net lease, where the tenant pays taxes, insurance, and maintenance, is dramatically more valuable than the same building with a month-to-month tenant or a startup with no financial history. Investors pay a premium for credit tenants and long-term leases because the income is predictable and the risk is lower. Market vacancy rates. If the submarket you are investing in has 3% industrial vacancy, you have real leverage as a landlord. If it's sitting at 12%, you may struggle to replace the tenant who leaves. Alright, let's make this concrete. I'm going to walk you through a simplified example of how an investor might analyze a warehouse deal. These numbers are illustrative, but they are realistic to the Texas market. Okay, so for this example, let's say that you are looking at a 20,000 square feet warehouse, and well, they are asking for 1.1 million and the rent is about $7.50 per square foot, and this is a triple net lease. So the first step that we're going to do here is to calculate the gross income. And what is that? So it's something very simple. We are going to take the amount of square foot that we have in that warehouse and we're going to multiply that by the rent, the price of the rent per square foot. And if we do that here, we are going to get $150,000 because this is a triple net, so your tenant is paying for taxes, insurance, maintenance. So what will be left might be the property management, and let's say that, for example, your property management fee is $12,000 for the year. Here we could also count for any reserve or any other responsibility the landlord may have. So that will be the $12,000. When we subtract the $12,000 from the $150,000, we are going to get our net operating income, which is the NOI. And that will be approximately $138,000 per year. What we did in here to get the NOI was to get the gross income minus the operating expenses. Now, in step 2, we are going to calculate the cap rate. How we do that? It's very simple. We take this $138,000, which is the NOI, and we divide it by the purchase price, which in this example is going to be $1.8 million. And that will give us roughly 7.7%. In the current Texas market, this entry point is reasonable. Tighter markets like Dallas-Fort Worth may get around 5 to 6%. Now, our step 3 is to look at the financing. Let's assume that you put 30% down, which that will be around $540,000, and finance the remaining, which will be the 70%. That will be around $1.26 million at a commercial rate. At a current rate, your annual debt service might be around $90,000 to maybe $95,000 per year. If we subtract this amount from the NOI that was 138,000. So the NOI minus the annual debt service was 138,000 minus, you could use either the 90,000 or the 95,000. That will be around 43,000 to 48 in annual cash flow, and this is before taxes. So this on a $540,000 equity investment, that's roughly 8 to 9% on a cash-on-cash return. Now here is where the real upside lives. So if the lease renews $1, let's say at the end we got $8.50, and then to do all the numbers again, we multiply that by the square feet. We got $170,000 a gross income, but remember that we need to subtract the operating expenses. Let's keep it at 12,000. So we will get 158,000. And why it was increased? Because when the leases renew, the landlord usually bring the lease a little bit up. Increases the lease. So since our NOI in this case increased $20,000, and let's say that for example we want to sell at the same cap rate, so we were using the 7.7% of the cap rate. So having these two numbers, what we're going to do is a division, and that is going to give us the approximately price that we could potentially sell the property, and that is about $2.5 million. So that is around $250,000 in appreciation. And this is on top of the years, because let's say that for example the increase of the renewal of the lease was in 5 years. So in 5 years they were paying $7.50, and then after the 5 years when it renews, you get now the new lease is $8.50 per square foot. But now with only that dollar that increased per square foot, you're not only getting the $250 in appreciation, you're also getting the cash flow and mortgage pay down. And that's how the math compounds in warehouse investing, when you get the fundamentals right. Now let's talk about what can go wrong, because I'm not here to sell you a perfect picture. Every investment has risk, and warehouse investing is not different. Risk number 1, tenant vacancy. Your entire model depends on that building being occupied. If your tenant leaves and the local market has a soft demand, you could be carrying a mortgage on an empty building for 6, 12, or even 18 months. This is why market research and tenant quality matter so much going on. So always underwrite the deal assuming a realistic vacancy period. Risk number 2, single tenant concentration. Many smaller warehouse deals involve just one single tenant, and that is very risky because that single tenant could relocate, could not renew the lease, and then you don't have nothing overnight. This is the trade-off with the smaller industrial properties. Larger multi-tenant flex buildings spread that risk across multiple leases. Risk number 3, deferred maintenance and capital expenditures. Roof, HVAC systems, loading dock equipment, these have lifespans, and when they go, they can cost maybe $50,000 to $150,000 to replace. So always get a throughout property condition report before you buy and price those future costs into your underwriting. Never assume a building is problem-free just because it looks clean. Risk number 4, interest rate environment. The deal I'll walk you through works at certain financial rates. If the rates are significantly higher when you are buying, your debt service climbs. So your cash flow compresses and you need either to lower the purchase price or higher rents to make the numbers work. Always stress test your deal at a higher interest rate scenario. Risk number 5, oversupply in the market. Industrial has been a darling of commercial real estate for the last decade, and developers have responded by building a lot of new products. In some markets, new supply has started to push vacancy up, and rent flat. Know the construction pipeline in your target market. Are new warehouses being delivered faster than demand can absorb them? That context matters. The investors who lose money in warehouse real estate almost always made one of the three errors. They overpay for the asset, they underestimate expenses, and they had too much faith in a weak tenant. So stick to disciplined underwriting and those risks become manageable. In the next video, we are going to go even deeper. I'm going to walk you through the best commercial properties for first-time investors. How simple is it to understand? How hard is it to finance? Or how risky is the tenant situation? And how forgiving it is if something doesn't go to plan. That's a video you don't want to miss. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss it when it drops. And if you're looking at a warehouse deal right now, or you are just trying to figure it out whether industrial investing makes sense for your goals, my team and I work with investors and business owners across Central Texas, and we love to help you think it through. Send us an email at info@thecommercialdeal.com and we will get back to you. Warehouse investing done right is one of the most reliable income-producing asset classes in commercial real estate. But like anything, the edge goes to whoever does their homework. I hope this gave you a real foundation to build on. If it was helpful, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.